And yeah, to not be with them during Passover is really hard because my mom's usually the one that cooks. Everyone used to come to our house. So I made homemade stuffed cabbage here. I made harosis, which is chopped walnuts and apples and wine. And I made what else did I make? I made homemade soup the other day from chicken bone and
That's
um
time on your hands.
what? Yeah, we got all the time in my hands.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it's weird. I mean, like we got to do a Zoom Seder and some relatives that we don't normally see were on it. So I guess that was cool. But um, Zoom's just killing it right now. They're just making all the money. They're just gonna I'm like, oh, I should have bought that stock. Yeah, sucks to be you. So
Truth, right? Well, I did see
yeah.
also there's another program right now called live stream. I think there's one for Instagram where it's what is it called? Sulo.tv or something like that.
No, I don't know. I saw something on Instagram today called House Party that was promoting a lot, and I've seen them on a lot of the commercials on Disney Plus. So I'm gonna hit them up to see if they want to do a partnership or something.
So how do you go about that? Like, because I mean, you always have a lot of stuff going on your plate, and I always admired about you.
Aw.
But you're just literally like you see a brand and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna hit them up, whatever. Let's see what happens. Oh,
I
okay,
think
2 weeks later, she has a partnership with them. All right, yeah, contract.
I thank you. I think people forget the opportunities of relationships, like developing actual relationships, because so much of what we do today in society is so easily technical
Mhm.
that to Generation X and earlier, and it seems like, oh, too antisocial, but to like Gen Y, which is my generation, and the younger ones, like that's normal behavior. So majority, like to teenagers today, they aren't used to consistent human interaction. So like I imagine that right now, I'm so happy there are kids at home who are being forced to go outside. Like that's awesome to me. But going back to the question you asked me, it's about relationships. And I think with business being very technical and social experiences being very technical, people forget the importance of leveraging genuine relationships. So anytime I want to work with somebody, I try to work with like, why is this brand important to me? Why is developing a relationship on a personal level important to me? Because I feel that you know a brand doesn't nobody wants to just be used and exhausted for transactional purposes. So to kind of encourage and um grow something that's actually genuine, you have a more long lasting relationship. I mean, yeah, there are brands I want to work with, but I think that we can help serve each other, and therefore the companies themselves become like best friends versus just like, oh well, I want to do this and it's going to cost this much money and blah 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 blah, and oh my god, and it's so cool they sent me like free stuff, and it's like I don't want that to always be the case, because as cool as it is, that like I have a lip gloss right next to me, like this has margins and this took work and someone was in a factory doing this, or maybe it was a system, and it might be a big brand, but at the same time, like products themselves are currency. So like I have two brands that sent, I don't know, I have more than that. I have four brands that sent me stuff here since we've been here. Um, and I have videos I'm making for all of them, and I'm not even getting paid for all of them. But the fact is, I believe in the brand, I believe in the owner, and I know that we can help each other grow. I can help them grow, for me as an entrepreneur, me as an influencer, me as an actress and producer. At the same time, help them connect to other people like me who will consistently carry on their message. So it's always about the relationship for me and how we can help each other, because that means that like I have clients that I've had since I started my business, even before I started my business. And it's all about the importance of building the relationship. So if I get excited about something, it means I actually would like it. Like I wouldn't work with something that I didn't actually like, because then it's just, you're forcing something.
Right.
So that's important to me. That was a very long answer to your question.
No, it was a good answer. I think the audience needs to hear that. We're in a day and age. Like I saw a video of this guy. He was trying to understand why like certain brands weren't talking to him,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like trying to get their attention, and you could see off the bat that it was it was results driven, not process oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't care about establishing this relationship, and you and I have talked a little bit about this with how to deal with a certain brand, but um, how to develop that relationship, and I think that maybe is where some people miss it in this day and age. So let's talk about like because that's phenomenal for you to know, and the fact that you've already had brands send you stuff while you've been there and you know at your friend's place, like you're not wasting time. You know, I love that. Um, have you just like always had that innate ability, or did like someone come along and say, "Hey, Jordan, me and talk. You need to fix up your game, girl. I'm gonna help you out here."
That's a good question. I think it all comes with experience. It doesn't even come with age. It just comes with experience and your ability to listen.
Mhm.
That's something that I've always struggled with. When I was a kid, I was really bad at listening. I used to get scolded a lot for it by my parents. So I think, that being such an important morality or like manner, that's like a manner that I had to build up. I've always been passionate about like watching, observing a situation and really hearing the pain points or hearing things, because you don't, it takes a while to perfect your technique of even having and holding a conversation. So I don't think I always had this, but I always had um the ambition to learn it. For me, you know I'm a problem solver. I enjoy doing that. I'm also like a risk taker, which is very different than some of my friends or people that I work with. Like a lot, like I'm type A in an aggressive sense. I'm not necessarily type A in an organizational sense. But for me, I've always been about like taking the big risk, but understanding the not just the reward, but the what could be the potential and the unknown, and listening to people. It's in those moments of silence, it's in those moments of even just the way they say something or a word they might use, or the bigger problem. Like you know every time I work with different clients with a company, a lot of them come to me for one initial reason. And I was actually discussing this the other day. It's so ironic. They come to me for one specific compartmentalized reason. When we have a discussion, it's actually something else. This is just happens to be the problem that's occurred because the other thing was dislodged. So it's about really listening to the 360 like visual of someone's needs, whether that be an individual or a brand or a project or your mom. Like, it's really hearing those moments where there's breath to see where you can fit in, because so sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And also, i I like to really see things completely through, and that was something that took time to learn. I didn't necessarily have a mentor in this space, but aside from my parents, my mother would kill me if I didn't shout her out a little bit during this. But I worked before I before I started my company. I worked for a woman for a year. I literally worked with her 6 to 7 days a week, 10 to 15 hour days, and she paid me like pennies, like pennies. And then if she didn't like the work I produced, she would cut those hours.
Mhm.
Like, she was a vicious woman. However, I learned a lot from her. You can learn a lot from people that are angry all the time, or that feel the need to prove something, but it's like a selfish proving. It's not necessarily like, I want to show that I'm valid and I could do this because I want to be present for others to show them that they can also have the power. She wasn't about that. She was like, I'm going to do this, I want to make my dream happen, and this is what it's all about. It was very selfish.
Mhm.
And so I learned a lot observing her and the ways that she would consistently fail with holding on to relationships with like sponsors that we worked with. And I learned everything I learned about sponsorships and fundraising and organizing and developing like a project, because I used to produce independent fashion shows with her. That's what I did.
Okay.
And it was just me and her. Like, I ran every department. She just kind of oversaw things and either approved things or didn't, but I ran every department. I was very young at the time. um it was like the grad school experience that I always wanted. And after that, I didn't feel the need to go to grad school anymore. I felt like I had learned so much. I was a glutton for punishment. But I learned a lot from that. Like the fact that we would work, like I have brands that I worked with while I was working with this woman when I was like 23, 24. I'm now 31. I'm still friends with those people. I've still worked with those people. One of the brands I worked with that came on my first project I ever launched with my business, her son was one of my interns. Her son's gonna be my intern again this summer. Like, that to me shows that like relationships are more important to me sometimes than like money, because relationships breed opportunity. And I
Mhm.
think if we all serve the bigger purpose of opportunity versus like money, which I know people will be like, of course you want to make money. Yeah, I want to make a lot of money. But money is a medium of exchange. There are things that need to happen for that to happen. And I think a huge part is like building relationships and listening to people's needs and understanding the value of pain points, which was something that was a big lesson for me last year, was really listening to people's pain points and taking that as like being the barometer for which direction we pushed or pulled someone based upon what they wanted, what their end goal was, you know.
Are you referring to just with a brand, or are you referring to just with people in general? Because I know, I mean, pain points is a universal thing that can be,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better word, taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And just to get to where the person needs to get to, I mean, like how do you go about that? And what was the aha moment, the light bulb that went off last year for you for that?
Um, Great question. Thank you. So it would be, you know, you can personify an object, you can personify a business. So you have to understand the ways that things come alive. So even if I talk about the strategies I would use to kind of coax something out of an individual are the same strategies I would use as a business, because a business is a living organism. It's an organism that houses many people, many departments, many projects. It, you know, it eats, sleeps, and breathes the same way that we eat, sleep, and breathe, except it's eating proposals, it's breathing PowerPoints, it's, you know, it's sleeping, it never sleep, actually it never sleeps, right? So you can personify a business because, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs see like the value of, you know, we want to make sure it's a healthy business, we want to make sure it has sustainability, you know. So it's the same tactics, you can use them both. You know, I'm not going to ask a business if it fell in love over the summer, but you know, it might be like, oh, did you find a good merger, did you discover something new, did you, you know, because successful businesses are all about satiating a need, um and like in sometimes inventing that need. So same thing with people, like people, you know, people hire me because I provide a need that they have. It's the same kind of thing. I don't know if I'm making sense, but to me everything kind of runs parallel.
Right.
um I hope I'm making sense.
I
uh
I definitely think that you're making sense, and you're
okay.
breaking it down to a very fundamental level. That's what we want here for the people.
Okay.
I love how you're breaking it down. You're good. You're
Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I get too, I've been stuck in quarantine. Okay. Just
good.
having conversations with myself. But you know, the thing for me is like I listen to a bit. When someone hires me to help their business, and sometimes their business is just them running a business, right? A lot of entrepreneurs like, this is my business, and my business is that I do graphic design. It's just me doing graphic design, but it's my business. Because having a business is great for a lot of people versus just being a contractor, because it separates you. It's like a barrier that protects you. So like if something goes wrong, let's say somebody, God forbid, knock on wood, like has a problem with me and wants to take me somewhere legally, they have to go through the business. I'm protected because of the fortress of my business. So like, you know, but it's the same motivating factor. Like when it comes to, I want to be a successful entrepreneur, my choice of medium to become that is being an actor, is being an influencer, is being a business owner with a full functioning business. But you know, specifically, you know, people and companies and projects have needs. So when someone comes to me, like, regardless of what it is, if it's an individual, a business, a project, I ask them, what do you want? Why do you think you need this? What are you doing when this figment of whatever is over? And what is your through line? So I like to see and observe everything in a through line, you know, especially like with projects like web series or films or even commercials or whatever. To me, you know, I like seeing like where, you know, I treat it like a living organism. Is an organism, where is it born, where does it grow up, where did it go to school, what was its first kiss, like where, you know, where is it gonna live for the rest of its life, where is it gonna die? I mean, like it has a full cycle. Most great entrepreneurs, or the greatest entrepreneurs, and I took this from Tony Robbins, the greatest entrepreneurs, they know, like he's like, you build a business to sell your business. You build it so big that you sell it. You have to have an end goal. It's not just going to live on. I mean, there are great behemoths in the business space that are live on and on and on, but they have modified so many times that you're not, you, I don't want to say as laymen, but like us as like regular everyday people aren't aware of the changing of the hands all the time, but you go for the better growth of the business, you know? So when I work with a project and someone brings me on board as like a marketer, let's say, I just went through this the other day, I sign them on like an XYZ contract, like let's say hypothetically it's 3 months, and they want to launch the series. They want to just have it launched. So we do a whole like month of foundational stuff, making sure that the structure's there. So like making sure the skeleton is like pristine, or at least at a place where we can like have its own cotillion. We can show it off to society. And the next stage is, the thing that they hired us for, which is like, we want to launch the series. So let's say the next month is about launching it, all the different marketing strategies we brought to it. Cool, we did our job. And then I say, okay, well, when that's over, what are you doing to carry on the success that we did? Because more often than not, people are going to say like, oh, well, I didn't get the results, or the results didn't stay. I'm like, well, you did a flash in a pan. You did a flash in a pan in a world where everyone's doing a flash in a pan, and the world is ADD. So like, oh, flash in a pan, flash in a pan, flash in a pan, flash in a pan. How are you sustaining and retaining and developing relationships, which I think I'm just going to keep pushing in there, developing relationships with those things, and keeping it going. Because I am more used to you if I teach you how to sustain, keep, and grow your business versus, oh yeah, pay me a couple grand, I'm just going to do this for you. Awesome. Thank you. I made my cut. Life is good. I'm just going to sit back and watch, you fail. I'd rather make you successful because you'll come back to me, or we'll work together in the future. I think that's important. It's sustainability. It's, like that. The aha moment for me, I had some shift changes last year in my business, and I saw the value of, I have to grow it in a new direction. What I was doing was too scatterbrained. I wanted to do a lot because I felt like that's what I should be doing, but it wasn't generally making me happy. So when I saw, I took kind of like the people that I enjoyed working with the most, the projects that really made me feel like they were giving back to me. Because I'm a performer. Sometimes you have, if you're not performing all the time, you feel a little, you know, lonely and you feel a little uninspired. And for me, I was like, well, I want to raise my standards. I want to elevate the quality of work that I do, and I want to elevate that, where I have to elevate the kind of people I'm working with. And it's not about money or financial status. It's about a certain mindset of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that the people that I really wanted to work with, I want to play with the big dogs, the people that are like, no, I want $10 million. Well, I'm a small little mom and pop shop in Brooklyn. Like, no one really knows who I am. But if I want to be taken seriously and I want to embrace that presence, for me, I had to really elevate my status and raise my standards. And by doing so, I saw like, well, what does everyone come to me for that I really like working with? Well, they come to me because they want more exposure. They come to me because I have really strong relationships. Like, building my database is huge. I've been very lucky. I build it, and I have, like, between brands and individuals and projects, people I've worked with the last 10 decade of my life since I graduated. Like, I'm very fortunate. I worked very hard mining those relationships. So people always come to me for my database. And I'm like, okay, well, I love connecting people. That makes me really happy because I could see that. All right, I like doing that. And I'm an actor, so I want to really work with more projects, and the people that I'm really fascinated, who put the sweat equity into their project, where they're equally as passionate as they expect me to be and beyond. Um, you know, I saw that they all wanted the same thing. They all wanted to get distribution, or they all wanted to get a bigger name attached, or they all wanted to get, they just needed like a booster pack, and versus just like, oh,
I like that. A
yeah,
booster pack.
yeah, because that's where I saw my value was. I'm not the big agency. I'm not ready to be the big agency, and I'm definitely not trying to be like a Netflix or a Hulu or even now Quibi. But or VaynerMedia, I think, is a better example. I mean, eventually I'd like to get to VaynerMedia, but not now. I'm at this present moment in time, like, I'm happy where I'm at. So I saw the fact that I'm like this little half step. I know I have relationships with the big people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see a lot of people here who are so talented. They're like diamonds in the rough, that if they just had someone that would just like hold their hand and say, okay, look, trust me, I think you should do this. I really believe in what you're doing. If you just keep pushing the ball up the hill, I will be there as your cheerleader to keep, because the more you do it. And I really saw that there was just all this noise everywhere. There's just noise, like people, like the swindlers and the scam artists, because it's any industry is like that right now. I'm not just going to call out the entertainment industry and say that. It's every industry. I saw there was a lot of noise, and I had a very unique way of navigating through it. And so I really saw that like I could protect them from all the noise and I could help them be seen by the people they want to be seen by. So I decided that the best way to do that would be to have a network or to build networks and make network relationships, because I saw that was the need. The biggest concern people had was that I want to work with the project, or I want to do marketing, I want to get bigger exposure, but I'm afraid that like corporate America or corporate whatever is going to come. They're going to tell me I have to change all my branding, or I have to recast everybody, or I have to throw out my idea.
You have. I don't mean
Yeah,
to
it's
interrupt you, but that's a huge problem. I mean, like
yeah,
it's fair, right?
yeah. Artistic integrity is a problem throughout. I have people that have like vodka companies that are like, the name can't change. I don't want the name to change. And it could be like I have one of my companies it has a bit of a innuendo name, but I'm not going to call them out, but like the name's innuendo. And he's like, no, I love the name. The name is a way of life. Like, it's not, to me, it's like, I don't want to change it. So, there are ways to modify around that. If you're just honest with your non-negotiables, there are so many other things that you can change and fix and modify and grow. So I really saw the value of being kind of like that. And the minute that people saw that, I'm like, no, I'm passionate about your non-negotiables. If I really feel like something is not going to work, I'll be honest. But I really see the value of what I can bring to you. So that's how I really started listening to the pain points and understanding. Because once you really get to the nitty gritty of what people's worries are, because everyone will say that surface level, it's like, oh, I don't want to spend the money right now. Everyone thinks that's the bigger issue, but it's not. I don't want to spend the money, because if you really, really want something, you'll spend the money. You'll beg, steal, sweat. Like you'll find gold out of a rock if you wanted to, if you really, really want something. So what is the bigger issue? Well, the money is a security, and the money is a power play. And if I trust you too much, I don't know how vulnerable I am. I'm not sure about my ROI. So you need to make ROI beyond just currency. What other things can you provide to somebody? Well, I could provide you with sustainable business. I could provide you with traction on your project. I could provide you with awareness by people that you want to be respected and recommended by. So that all comes with listening. That all comes with asking questions. Because I'd be an awful entrepreneur if I didn't care about why people needed me. I would just be self-serving.
That's absolutely true. And okay, so I mean, you seem to have this phenomenal entrepreneur side, which I totally
Oh, thanks.
give you a lot of props for. How do you balance that with an artist? I know for me, um, I would say the last 3 years has been this evolution of understanding the playful side of somebody and the very business person at hand who needs to handle the day in, day out decisions to allow that person to play.
Mhm. So I think, I would be lying if I said, oh yeah, no, I do both 50-50. I don't. My company, Starbaby Enterprises, it takes a lot of time. Last year, um, because due to some personal things, I had to figure out how to make money. And right now, and at that period of time, I was more I felt that the pathway to that goal
Hmm.
was building myself as an influencer, and I did that strategically, which I'll talk about in a second. And then really coming up with some proprietary, exciting things about my business that I knew would attract bigger fish. Um, so last year I didn't really act a lot, which was really devastating to me. But I became an influencer. I really threw myself in the influencing world. I did a lot. I'm a Harry Potter influencer.
Shout out to Harry Potter influencers.
um,
Meet Dumbledore
yes.
and Professor Snape. You got your key in right here.
Thank you. No, I wouldn't. Not. It's not just Harry Potter. I'm like very big in the fandom world. I'm a huge nerd. But I really immersed myself in that world because I really, as an actress, that's the world I want to play in. So I felt like the only way that I had to be able to present myself in the world to be respected by the fans of that world. And I made some great relationships and I got to do some very exciting things. I'm very lucky. But I did a lot of video last year and I barely finished editing any of it. So being in quarantine right now has really forced me to get back into the swing of things. So I really was passionate about like going gung ho with my acting career this year, realizing what my value was, which is like I have my own TV network. I should put myself in my own show on my TV network. I could put my own influencing stuff in my TV network. because I'm talking to myself as my own client. Like I not just for like, I don't want to, I can't be like, oh, don't be self-serving. And I have my own TV network and I put myself on it. But like to separate the two, I saw myself like, okay, well, what value can I provide? Well, I could be in my own shows and I could put my own shows on there and show my role as a producer by making my path happen. I've always felt that my big break, as they say, will be making something for myself. Um, However, uh, this year things have changed, and I think being in quarantine, I talk a lot about building content and creating your own pathway to success with content. So it's really forced me to get back into things. So I have all this video that I shot last year as an influencer. Like I went to New York Comic Con, I went to LeakyCon, I in February, right when coronavirus was still it was out there, it was freaking people out. I was in London, and I got to go to the studio tour and record a bunch of stuff there. So there is so much I have that I haven't edited. So now it's taking the time to build that and like have a bunch of little like journey points to show people when they look me up and want to see me, like, oh, I did all this stuff and here's other stuff you can watch, and really build up my brand, because I got to practice what I preach. So how do I balance it? First of all, understanding the power of delegation and that it's not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
That's really hard for me, because you build something for yourself to just help your little world, and then you need to realize you can't do everything. Because I wasn't happy. I was realizing that like I'm not performing, I'm not happy. I feel like I just threw myself in this entrepreneurial world and then helping other people's dreams come true, and I'm not making my own dreams come true, because we have those feelings as well. And
Of course.
that took me to like, okay, well, I need to surround myself with people that are gonna volley with me and push me in other directions and do the stuff I don't necessarily want to do but they love doing. So one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned is that tennis players, they only get better by playing with people better than them. That's how grow in sports, and all sports, but like tennis players, let's say, for this example. uh
Did you
you
play?
know what
Did you play tennis?
I grew up in Connecticut. I think my mom tried to get me to play tennis, but like I am so clumsy. Like I am not.
Oh.
I'm like, hey, hey. Ee. So un-Connecticut of me to not play tennis, but that's okay. I wasn't born in Connecticut.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, I wasn't born in Connecticut, so I don't consider it my litmus test to define who I am. But but yeah, going back to your point, like you have to surround people that help you become better. So you find people where like your strengths are their weaknesses and their strengths are your weaknesses.
True.
I think I said that right. But
Yeah.
like that's the way to do it, right? So like for me, like a big thing, like I went to school for graphic design. That's how when I went to school at Marymount College, and when I was there, I was a graphic designer. And that being an art major as a graphic designer, that was a way to get my artistic side out, because I didn't audition for my college. I still don't know why. But like for me, learning those skills, and I carried those skills out of college, that provided me the lifestyle that I was living when I was a freelancer for a really long time. But now, like I hate graphic design. Like to me, I don't make stuff for myself. So a lot of my taste factor isn't there. And it really hurt for me to say that, when before I was so gung-ho about making these things. I'm like, I'm more gung-ho right now about building giants. Like that's what I consider the stuff I do. I build giants. So I started looking, and now one of my friends I just hired, I brought her on board. She's a great graphic designer. I love her style. I know that I can talk to her in ways because we have a friendship. And that you be careful about the friends you invite. I have to be very honest about that. Be careful about the friends you bring in. But I love the fact that everyone that works for me right now is someone that I consider a mentor or a friend or a confidant, because we work very strange hours. We work in a very weird world, and you want people that you feel aren't afraid to be like, you are not being authentic right now, or this is not working. So I delegate now, and
Had
and
moments
that
like that?
what.
Have you had moments like that where someone or you had to say to one another,
Mm-hmm.
you're not being authentic right now. You're not, because I've had these conversations myself. So everything you're saying definitely is resonating right here with me. But just for everybody who wants to tune in and watch this, like, what is that? What does that mean? What is that? And have you had to deal with that with your own team?
Oh yeah, I think authenticity is the elephant in the room.
Mm.
I've really seen that as like the blaring flashing light that no one really wants to talk about, because everyone wants to assume that they're authentic. I mean, you don't want to walk around like, oh, I'm actually a fake person. Like, no one talks like that.
Mm.
So I've seen it the same way that I've seen a huge shift in the way that we deal with like business relationships and businesses in a more colloquial and social standpoint. I've seen a huge shift in authenticity at the same time. If you don't feel, and you could look in a bunch of marketing and analytics and journals and stuff there, and I'll also talk about that in a second, but there's a huge thing about like the fact, like, if you don't trust a brand, you're not gonna, if you don't feel like you can trust them, you're not going to invest in them. As a consumer, you're not going to buy them. As a partner, you're not going to work with them. Granted, shady people like shady people, like, like-minded people think alike, but like, at the same time, on a global scale, um authenticity is huge. If I don't feel like some, like, people, like, you can look at like the influencer world is a huge blaring example of that. If people don't feel like they're being authentic, they'll call them out, because those people grew an empire on being authentic, which is how people relate to them in the first place. So if you go from, this is me, like, a makeup artist are my favorite examples to use in any scenario. So like makeup artists, there's plenty of makeup artists that just, I like, like guys who wear makeup, which is amazing. Guys who wear makeup, like who just started, like, I'm a guy, I like wearing makeup, I'm gonna do videos. So I'm sure there's some kid out there who's gonna watch me, who's either gonna be intrigued by it, or they're gonna be like, they see themselves in me, and they are authentic. They build their whole relationship on being authentic. And now let's say like 10 years later, now that YouTube is in itself an oversaturated market, but like, let's say they're doing really glamorous videos to show how their lavish lifestyle is now, and doesn't say anything about being humble or grateful or anything, but is showing off how fanciful their life is. Like, people are going to say, like, this isn't you. You're just peacocking and being a dick. Like, I don't want to, I don't trust you anymore. And if they don't trust them, that's going to take the levels down. So authenticity is key. I mean, you could also see that even with some like people in the entertainment world, actors and actresses and models and stuff like that. They have such, we cancel culture is a perfect example of why authenticity matters. People are so quick to do guilty until proven innocent versus innocent until proven guilty. That cancel cultures exists. And it's because we don't feel, if we disagree with somebody because it doesn't resonate with our truth, like, screw them, they're done. Like, so going back to my business, yeah, with my team, like, my right hand is one of my good friends, Victoria. She and I had the same manager 10 years ago. We met as actors. We kind of danced around being friendly acquaintances, and then we bumped into each other at a web festival a couple years ago, and we just kind of jumped into working together, and then we jumped into having a really great friendship. And I have her, like, I call her out when I feel like what she's doing isn't for the greater good of the client, because maybe I have more experience in client relations. But she'll also call me out when she's like, you're being too precious with something, or you're being too, I don't think that's what they're trying to say. So you need to have somebody that's there, that you can kind of um discuss honest conflict with. Because if I'm not being a good person when I'm the face of my company, or I'm not being a valid or fair, or, you know or willing to play devil's advocate with
Right.
the bigger picture,
Hmm.
then, I'm only doing what I like. And people don't hire me just for my opinion. They hire me because they want me to understand where they're coming from, to see if I'm a good fit for them or not. And, and right now I'm small enough where they're gonna trust me before they trust my entity.
Okay.
So if I'm not being an authentic person, or not being respectful, or not being respected,
Hmm.
that's two different things. That's another thing people should realize. Being respected and being respectful are two different things. You earn respect, and you can earn respect by being respectful. You can earn respect by being a badass too, but you also want to be someone that's a courteous badass. Like, I think, you want to be someone that people, when they think of you, they know that you actually you get the job done. You might be aggressive, and you might be, balls to the wall, but at the same time, you're courteous and you understand the underdog story. That's how I operate. And that also, And it's happened with my people I've worked with. It's happened with, because you have clients that tell you all the time, like, hey, Jordan, you said you're going to do this. I don't, and you're my, I paid you for this. It's not really going the way I would think it was going. And then so I sit down and I offer more sweat equity because to me, my reputation
Hmm.
supersedes anything. And if people don't trust me, then that loses everything. And I rather people feel like I showed up when they needed me most than I just took their money and said, well, I did this. Bye now.
That's going
You
to be
know?
a short-term thing. Yeah. So, because I have a lot of listeners who are like up and coming in the entertainment industry. I would say a lot of them are artists who are still trying to even figure out their niche. They think they have
Mhm.
multiple talents, and like a lot of the things that you're hitting on are long-term based ideals,
Yep.
right? And it has to be stuff that everybody looks into. Um, what I want to ask is, are you the first to do something like this, or what would be another one? Because like there's a project that I'm thinking of that's on HBO. I think it's called Good Girls. And the star of it is the writer. She's a producer of it, and she brought it to Lionsgate for distribution. Is that something that you kind of want Starbaby to end up being like when you're talking about being with the big dogs, or where do you kind of like see it going?
Um, she asked me a couple questions in that. So the first thing is like when you say, the long, I think first let's address the point that you made about the long term goal.
Mhm.
I think that you know, we get so hung up on instant gratification when life isn't just about instant gratification. Like that was another lesson I learned last year, thankfully to my other mentor that I know you from, Valerie Hubbard from Actors Fast Track. She really shout out to AFT. She really opened my eyes in the fact that like these things that might be, so their son is just being like, hey Jordan. So okay. So like, you know, I was really focused on like, oh, I need to get an under 5 right now, or I need to get on this show because it's pilot season, and I need to do this. And it was also it was so unnatural to me
Mhm.
and to my other friends or to other people in my peer group that I saw. It was like they're getting auditions and they're booking stuff and I haven't gotten it yet and I must be failing. And I realized I'm like, well, what really gets me going? I'm like, well, these big feature films or these cool indie films from these smaller houses that I like, I'm so into the artistic element and the different story. Like that's really getting me going. That's what I aspire to be. Like that takes my breath away. That makes me sad that I haven't done it yet. Okay, well, how do you get involved with those? Well, it's a longer game.
Right.
Then that longer game is defined individually. What's going to be your long game versus my long game is totally different.
Right.
So there's a lot of staccato moments in there that are more short-term goals or low-hanging fruit that you can utilize, but they should all string together to get you to your long-term game goal.
Mhm.
They're all obstacles within this journey that we play.
Right.
So to me, the long-term goal is a great litmus test. Like I knew what I wanted. I'm like, okay, well, if like the project I really wanted to be a part of, which hopefully I'm still in the running for, knock on wood. Let's see, the
Did
project I want,
before the quarantine,
what?
whatever that project is, are you that you're referring to, that was before quarantine?
This is before quarantine. I still hadn't been I haven't auditioned for it, but I was building relationships with the producers and stuff. But they were supposed to start shooting the week after quarantine, but then the whole production shut
Right.
down. So I'm trying to take advantage of this situation, this limbo moment. But that relationship I've been trying to build for a year. And there's so much that had happened that I needed to consistently put out there to get me to that. So if every single day or like once or twice a week I do something for my big goal, I'm like the things that I do, I try to spread them to serve many masters. That's how I work with even my company, like in like getting sponsorships and stuff and getting relationships. I try to make it serve many masters because if you can stretch out resources, that's great. Love people love. It's not a lack of resources. it's a lack of resourcefulness.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, someone is calling me,
Fine.
and now they're not calling me. Okay, so okay, yeah. So to your point, yeah. So it's about the bigger game, and then you should reverse engineer. Like once you have your big goal that might take like a year or might take like longer, you can reverse engineer multiple smaller goals that help serve a bigger goal. So that's how I go about doing things now. Like to me, because I was sick of people told me my whole life. I always knew when I was a kid that I was gonna act and I knew I was gonna have my own business. And at the time, people were like, "You can't do both. You have to make a decision." I'm like, I really disagree with you, and I've always been against the grain. And to me, accepting that as like a value of me versus a frustration that people have with me, it changes your thinking. So it's not a lack of resource, it's a lack of resourcefulness. So you have to see the way that you can stretch that. So to answer your first question, I think that long goals are good to have one big goal, even just for a year. Like a lot of great masterminds talk about how in the beginning of the year you should set a goal for the year. Like where do you want to be at the end of the year? And then just have one. Don't drive yourself crazy. It shouldn't be like buy a house, buy a car from my husband. Like it shouldn't be all three of them. It should be like become financially stable, have $1,000 in my savings, something like that. That's so small. That's a lot to some people, right? So make that a big goal, and then maybe the smaller goals are like get one new client a month, book one acting role a month, or produce something, or launch my TikTok. Like that's a big goal for this quarantine, is launching TikTok, because I see the value of it. I also understand the ridiculous of it, but I see the value of it. There's value in everything. The way that you can make it and flip it, it's value. That's how real estate works. Like if it works for real estate, you can take the same strategy and apply it in different ways.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. And then to your second point, which I think was, like Good Girls or the show on HBO, is that my goal? My goal is that I'll talk about. I have two goals. My business goal is that I want to help get people amplified from their soapbox. Like that just makes me happy. I want people to feel like they can be who they are, and we're just going to get them out there, but they don't have to change their authentic way of doing things to satiate everybody. They could be who they are. They just needed help with their voice, and I hold the amplifier. That to me is important. I want my company to be seen as a trendsetter and a tastemaker. I want people to think that when they want the next best piece of content, they know that we have it. And that's a constant growth. I'm at such a baby stage with that, but that's my big goal, is that because the reason I even decided to get a network, I also build networks now, which is really crazy, but like the reason I decided to have a network is that all the people I wanted to work with, they just wanted distribution. And I also saw that like they didn't only want distribution, they want to be on the established name. So I saw the value of like, well, I can give you distribution on my own network. And then my goal is that I talk to different networks and I say, check out my portfolio. These are the shows I represent. And yeah, they're already on TV. We're building an audience. And then maybe they take it and they bring it on their network. My goal is that every year I want to have a new roster of shows. That's hopefully in a perfect world, that'll be the case. But like we're eventually probably going to have our own original series. But the big goal is that I want every year that the ones that we're about to pop, they pop. So my network serves as an incubator. And so I want people to know that like we have the hottest content. We have, because the YouTube model's changing a lot. And I really see the value of providing that incubation period, because some people spend so much money, like tuition for college, one semester, on like a project. And that project sometimes never sees the light of day, and they don't understand why. And it might be the best project, but they haven't understood the algorithm of becoming viral. They haven't understood the value of like people can talk about like The Room. Like Tommy Wiseau became popular for having the best worst film out there in a time where no one really was making their own stuff. People were making stuff for a long time, but they didn't have Netflix back then. The viral quality is different now than it was then. And it took him another 10 years to even get recognition, because people wanted to talk about it. Like, so, things always change, trends change, strategy changes, wants, like, supply, demand changes. So, people don't, especially now that YouTube's totally changing and everything's becoming digital, we still don't understand. They used to call the internet the new frontier, or like the Western whatever. They used to make like Old West. They used to call it the Old West, right? Like you never know, dang nabbit, like there's no censorships and all this other stuff.
Is that
And
is that a Westerner accent?
yeah, that was my really bad Yosemite Sam.
All
For
right.
all those OG Looney Tune fans out there. I said I was a nerd.
Mm-hmm. It's okay.
But thank you. So, you know, the point is that like people used to call it the new frontier, so they didn't really or whatever, they didn't understand it. There's so many ways to circumvent censorships online that now we have this whole new world. We're building networks where people are making their own little ecosystems. So things are constantly changing. Like Quibi came out last week. I read a great article yesterday about Quibi that really didn't highlight how great it was, and I thought it was very interesting because people have been talking about Quibi like it's the best thing since sliced bread, that I was happy to see an antithesis argument of why it's so amazing, because that's where you find the nitty gritty. That's how you find your way in.
Was that the one in the Hollywood Reporter?
I think it was one from TechCrunch, where it
Okay.
was about Quibi and the fact that it didn't have like social sharing and the age where TikTok is really booming.
Right.
And the value of TikTok versus Quibi, which I thought was funny. But like, it was interesting to me to see that, because people are still trying to understand what people want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is Disney Plus so successful? Because Disney Plus is steeped in nostalgia.
Yeah.
Everyone can relate to nostalgia. That's like you can bottle nostalgia. I mean, why on YouTube, why is there a kid who made more money than the like CEO of Hasbro a couple years ago? Because that kid wanted to show how excited he was about opening toys, that the only people that would watch that as much is other kids who want to just see what happens when the toys open, which is one of the hardest demographic in advertising, the 4 to 7 year old market, to find. And this kid, just for doing what he likes, it just reacted to him. It was like a Christmas morning effect. When you can bottle like a human emotion, you can do a lot with that. That's a great selling point. It's like, why can't we stop watching Tiger King? The sheer ridiculousness of it all, and the fact that there are really people out there. They're content. It's going to change. It's malleable. There's viral content. There's great storytelling. There's content that makes and breaks individuals. There's content that just dips you on a plateau. Like, we still don't know this. So that's why I really wanted to be able to help people kind of just have a place where they can grow and build and take something that they put so much money and time in and show for it, versus just going to all different festivals. I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen to festivals now. Everything's probably going to be virtual, but like all the festivals this year totally, like fizzled out.
Yeah.
And South by Southwest went on Amazon. I thought that was genius. But like, look at me, right? I have all this content. So I changed my way of doing business and I started launching all my stuff online right now, because people need content. People want something new. So I have this great show that just did the festival circuit last year that had only been seen at festivals. And now they get to share it and like bring all their friends to watch it and say, look what I made. And like, look what I did. And this is where I'm going, So it's just about, building a better mousetrap. I feel like I'm talking in way too many metaphors.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Like I said, I've been in quarantine. And this is how I talk to myself.
How can I bring this as colorful as possible?
Yes, I just want to make it so complicated so no one but myself understands. But yeah.
That's a good way to go about it. And I know we have been like very, 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 very quarantined. And
Yeah.
I mean, you have a very big platform, and there's a lot of steps that go into that. So someone that has the idealistic, or at least has taken the time to speed read some of the stuff that you've gone through, would understand in the most complicated form. But if you say that it's a mousetrap, someone will get it. Like,
yeah.
I want the cheese. Oh, all right.
Exactly.
That's a great way to go about it. So the way that you're able to have those two, really, I'm curious on, you know, aside from your amazing Star Baby, um, where did the actress bear to be born, and where did the Star Baby come in between? Or I'll say, come to
Oh,
fruition.
wow. It's a deep question. Like, so just so I understand correctly, you want to know when did I want to become an actress or what? What was your question?
Yeah. So when did, yeah, see, I'm going complicated.
No,
Uh,
no, it's good. It's quarantine conversation. It's going to be a whole new thing. They're going to make books for dummies about it. It'll be great.
exactly.
Uh,
Quarantine
exactly,
segment. Um,
exactly.
so I've been having a lot of casting directors. We've had indie producers.
Mhm,
Um, we've had showrunners on the show. I mean, we've had the gamut.
mhm.
Even, we'll have some firefighters. We'll have some hypnotists. But what they all share in common is that they have that day. They have that day zero, where they said, "This was it. This is where I knew I was an artist. This was the day that I knew I wanted to make whatever it was."
Um, wow. I couldn't tell you the day I told my parents I wanted to be an actress. I don't remember that day. I just know that that's something I always wanted to do.
Okay.
Um, I'm an only child, and a lot of my time was spent with my parents, being told stories. My dad would read a lot to me as a kid, and we would act them out and invent them. He was a big, really, really into King Arthur and Camelot, so we did like a lot of stuff like that. He always showed me like the world through like rose-colored glasses, so everything was a new experience. Everything was an adventure, and because I didn't have any siblings, he was kind of like my my this example he'll love, but like my Merlin to my world. Like it would be us, and we would imaginary invent things. So I was always performing from a very young age. It was just always the three of us, me, my mom, my dad. So I was always very um aware of the fact that we wanted to make things different and we wanted to tell stories, and that's how they kept me excited. And then because it's lonely. Being an only child is very lonely. Yesterday was National Siblings Day, as I like to say, only child awareness day. But another thing for me, which I don't care how much of a weirdo this makes me sound, but like I grew up on Barbie dolls. Like that was my life. Like I didn't have any. We you know it was just me and my cousin were close to, but she lived pretty far. And I used to always play doll like that. That's me. I would make stories. I would, do soap operas in my bedroom, And I think the ability to like immerse myself in another world and just kind of make everything happen both satiated what I do now, which is like I'm producing and I'm also performing. But I love the fact that I always wanted to just do that. I was always putting on shows. I was always telling stories. I was always explaining things. I was always doing stuff. And I've been acting. I mean, one of my earliest acting memories, I must have been like 8. I'm sure I've once when I was younger. I mean, I danced when I was a kid. I was always doing something. I always wanted to act. And then one of my first memories of doing like a play that wasn't in school, I was like 8. And so to me, always knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to perform. Before I wanted to be, I mean, I knew there was like a brief period of time I wanted to be like a pop star or an actress, but that dream died real fast. But like but to me, performing was always the way that I expressed myself. I used to write songs and poems and things like that. So I was always expressing myself through performance art that I used my body as an instrument. Um, then I when I moved to the city for school, is where Starbaby the kind of conception happens, I guess is the best way to put it. I always knew I wanted my own business since I was a kid. I've been an entrepreneur since I was as long as I wanted to be an actress. I've known that. I used to take my every time I could see value in something, I would find a way to maximize it. And um not to like go back in the history of Jordan, but like for me, like when I was a kid and I go to business meetings with my dad, I would bring like all my doubles of Pokemon cards and I would bring them to the meetings and I would sell those cards to people that came to my dad's meetings. I was like 7.
Okay.
So to me, I was always interested in like building and making things and doing creative things.
Mm.
So having that world my whole life That was always something for me. And when I went to college, I didn't audition for college. I don't know why. I highly regret it. But I was focused on I was like, if I'm an actress, I'm gonna go do it. I live in New York. Like that was my thing. I knew the minute that I graduate, I'm like, I'm moving to New York. I don't care what happens. I don't care if I don't get into school. Like I'm going to New York. Like that's my dream. That's my goal. That's where I feel like my life's gonna happen. And I when I went to school, I was like, if I'm gonna act, I'm gonna go do it. I'm gonna study advertising. That was my backup plan. Because one of my favorite shows, the lead character that I had the biggest crush on was an advertising executive, and I was like, I can do that. And
We're gonna bring that back up.
yeah, no, it's a good story. But you know, when my senior thesis in college became the cornerstone of my current business. It was about young professionals in the entertainment world using social networking sites to brand market themselves. It was a time when YouTube was still very new, when MySpace, hella MySpace,
Woo! I
the
remember
name from the past, the name of the past. Yeah, that was when MySpace was still about it was starting to shift to just be music, and people were getting known through MySpace. People were getting deals through MySpace. YouTube was starting to be a music platform more than anything else. And so I saw the value of how people were using social media to establish their value, to really establish themselves as performers. And I wrote a whole thesis on it. And that thesis became my current business. And that's what I do now. So it's crazy to me to think that like at 19, 20, I wrote something that I was so passionate about that I actually followed through with it. And that's my business.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I launched my own business in 2013. So
2013. Everybody hear that? Everybody hear that? She did that on her own in 2013. This Jordan. This Jordan. So what? I'm sure there was nerves. I mean, like your parents were just okay. You know, you're not a typical person. We won't be at the house. You want to be an actress? Okay, Jordan, we got you. Or what kind of relationship did you have?
Oh God, I got such flack for wanting to be an actress. Oh God, from my dad, not so much my mom, from my dad. Because my dad came from an immigrant family, so he was very much like, you need to do something practical. But they go back and forth. Like my dad's an artsy person too, so it's not like they both were just pragmatic individuals. You know, the one thing actors don't. I mean, now it's different, but it's still hard. But it's different hard. But like, you know, it's not like a practical job necessarily.
Right.
You know, so you want, as parents, you want things that are easier for your children, I assume. So you know, I when I was in high school, went to performing arts high school. So I went half day to regular high school, half day to performing arts high school for 3 years, and that completely changed my life. And that only, you know, made it more evident how much I wanted this. Um, so my dad was supportive, my mom was supportive. They knew that's what I wanted, but I think they also wanted me to learn a skill. So when I went to college, I think they were happy that I was studying. I was a double major, double minor in college, so they were really happy to see how much I was very adamant about like really discovering my pathway to learning and really discovering, like, because I didn't really fit in when I was growing up in Connecticut. It really wasn't, you know, the thing for me. I really didn't. I felt very awkward there and not really heard there. So when I went to college, I finally felt like I belonged and I really learned my pathway to learning, which I think a lot of people are afraid to understand, that like you can find the way. Like if you don't work well with standardized testing or whatever, like that's okay. That like you need to discover like how you solve a problem.
Right.
And it may take longer or shorter periods of time, but it's okay. However, you solve a problem. I had some really amazing teachers at my college. So you know, they were, and then I started acting, and I booked my first commercial within a year of living in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I found my first manager, which is how I met my good friend Victoria. And then at that time, met my first manager, and that's also how I met Victoria, which is funny. But you know, I got my first manager on my own, and I got all my gigs on my own. I learned everything on my own because to them you don't understand it. Like they didn't come from that world. They don't know those things. Like the extent of my dad's performing, he was like an off Broadway of Bye Bye Birdie, like in the 80s, like and then he just like was like, oh, that was cool, that was fun, I'm done now. But once I showed them that it was not a hobby, and once I proved to them that like I don't care what you say, I'm gonna do what I want. And my parents have always been very supportive about that. Like they've always been like, first do it their way, then do it your way, which I always hated. But I appreciate the value I had by watching people do the way they do things, and then being like, okay, I tried it. Now I'm gonna do the way I want to do things, and show them that like I know what I'm doing. It's a great learning experience. It's a great learning experience, and being humble as well. So yeah, it was hard, but now they're like my biggest supporters. My dad's an entrepreneur, so he was all behind that. He was like, be more like your mother. My mom's a rock star person when it comes to like business and sales and stuff. So it was good to have those kind of things feed into each other and just become who I am today. But like, yeah, they're very much supportive about my entrepreneurial efforts and my performing efforts, because they see that I take it very seriously.
Mhm.
It's not, I tried doing a lot of other things to get to this point. Um, and I kept true to myself. So
I like that. No, it's just that's awesome. And it trust me,
weird talking about yourself for so
no, it's
long.
okay. It's okay. That's why we're doing this, man. And like it's a time of being able to reflect. And that's the whole entire purpose this show was originally founded. Even when we weren't quarantining, um,
Mm,
we would have guests in studio, and it was a basis for you to really look back and say, okay, this is what I've done. This is
yeah.
this is me in my entirety. And I know, you and I can easily talk back and forth, but I like hearing that. That's amazing to hear, because there's so many stereotypes behind what parents might think, right? And then you get over that point and you go into your adult life, and hopefully the hopefulness is that you transition into what you figure out that you want, and
Mhm.
sometimes that's not so easy. We had some guests on here, and we had some fan mail coming in at the same time, where they're like, well, I'm 55 and I just figured out that I want to do this, right?
Mhm.
So there's certain catches that come with that. Like, I was really fortunate enough that it kind of like just fell into my hands, and like I was like, I don't really want to take this seriously, like in the sense of treating it as a business, and what the day in day outs were. But I always had support behind me. Some people don't have it that lucky. uh,
Yeah.
and it's kind of cool how it wraps itself into who you become.
Yeah.
And um, so in saying all that, we have an hour of what's called the controversy hour. You had brought up you had an ex-boyfriend last year. How 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 do you achieve all of this and you're able to make time for dating? How does that work?
Oh God,
Mhm.
dating. Gosh, weird.
Dating. Show it.
Um,
He's all shy.
I just don't think. I mean, to be very transparent, the person I was previously with, I'd known for a very long time. I grew up with them, and so the transition to being with that person was very different. They knew my goals, and they understood that because they knew it from an early age. So to me, that was easy, the relationship, and it just fizzled out as relationships do.
Mhm.
Um, you grow apart, your needs go in different directions. But in terms of dating, I don't know. I don't know what dating is. I don't date. To me, I date my business. That to me is the most important thing. I want to be something, and everyone wants to be something. And I think being true to your personal goals and your professional goals and your relationship goals, which sometimes they combine, sometimes they're completely different, but being aware of them is important. And you can't be a good partner if you aren't true to what you want to yourself. So for me, dating, I mean, I was like, 2020 is my year, but then 2020 was like, hold my beer. So so I
One in
mean,
my ear, but then I like that. I like that. You should repeat
yeah.
one more time. One more time.
Yeah, one more time. 2020 was my year. Now 2020 is like hold my beer. So, I don't know. I didn't. I Dating is so far from my mind. So I couldn't really tell you. I think to me, what's more important is that I've been working so much the last couple of years, and that I was really not having like social relationships. Like I had friends I hadn't talked to in a really long time that last year I started reaching out to again. And I think, dating like friendships is you really have to show up for people. So I make time because I make sure that I invite people to the things I do, to share in my success, to share in that and be present in their successful moments. Like I work with my friends, so I'm a little lucky. But yeah, who knows? Who knows when I'll date again? I have 2 dogs. They're enough of a handful for me. So
I like it. I like it. And okay, so let's rewind here because I'm sure that guy wasn't you're the only guy, but have you ever have you ever dated an actor? Have you ever dated somebody who was in your
have I ever dated an actor?
Yeah,
Oh
I know.
God.
That's the one. That's the question. That's the question.
God, that's like the kiss to death question.
Woo! Finally, somebody says it.
God. Yeah, my ex was an actor and a filmmaker.
Okay.
Um, he helped me build a few things that I was doing in my company, so that was cool. It's always fun to have someone that you're into that you can create with. Um, and I've dated actors. I mean, what's the like cliche? You date people that you're in like projects with because it's like you're living the moment and it just becomes so real. I mean, yeah, I've dated actors. The people you surround yourself with most of the time is not maybe not necessarily actors, but I'm a sucker for creatives. I've dated musicians, I've dated actors, I've dated writers. You get lost in the world of creating because that's like one of the most passionate things is like creating something. I'm sure that if a guy who was a chef cooked me a really amazing meal, I'd be like, hey, what are you doing next weekend? If I have time, I'd love to hang out with you. But you know it's not. I don't think it. People like to think that you date people who are in the industry because when they understand better. I think you're just they understand you on like a purely,
Surface.
yeah, not even just surface. It's not everyone's just surface, but like you know a lot. I mean, I know people who are in active relationships and they just thrive. They
Mhm.
just thrive. Like people who are dancers, they're dated to their dancers. Like they just thrive. They're doing their tango all the time. Like but it is like it's true. No, but it's true.
You're just
That
putting on all the dancers of the world, just
no, but like not just
just
that. Like no, not just that. Like you have an ebb and flow with people when you're creative. Like you'll say something and they'll respond in a way that you understand because you both come from the same passionate background. But I mean, it doesn't always work out because at a surface level, we all can be very egomaniacal, which is an understatement. But like it's we also we gravitate towards different people. I mean, I work with a lot of entrepreneurial people, so I mean I talk to a lot of people from all different businesses that have tried to date me or I have gone on a date with. But a lot of us are very married to our mistress is our business.
yeah,
So to me, my mistress is my business and my acting. Like if I don't feed that, if I don't make them happy, they're not going to make me happy. So
true that. No, I absolutely love that. I was just having this conversation too, because like it seems to be that when we do get into those circumstances, and if they are out of the industry and they don't understand, you kind of have to have this disclosure form and have this whole entire conversation behind it. I can remember numerous amount of times where I used to try when I was younger, because I mean that's what you think that you want, right? Uh,
mhm.
Especially in your teens and growing up in this business, like you still want a life, you still want certain things. Um, and you're like, okay, so like, just know I have to do this scene, and
Yeah.
yeah, and like having that conversation. And I was really fortunate recently before this whole thing broke off, to work with a couple on a pilot, and there was a sex scene, and I went up to the wife. I didn't even go up to the husband. Because I was like, I'll talk to you later, but you're only going to give me so much truth. And my wife was like, I'm not even going to be there, like on the day of that they're going to do that scene. So there was this very interesting communication going back and forth. But you see the Brad Pitts and Angelina Jolie, so it's just nice to see someone in your shoes kind of be like, I don't want to bring up a guy, but he's one of the most outspoken millennials I've seen be able to tackle on some of the stuff that you're tackling on, which is Michael B. Jordan. And when he gets asked the question, he's just like, kind of married to the work,
Yeah.
So I mean, when did that come on for you? Did that come on recently where you were like, you know what, I am kind of going to put this to the side and just focus on the work? Was that prior to this relationship, or like,
Oh no, I've always been about my business.
Okay.
I've always been very upfront with anyone that I've tried to date that like my professional goals are extremely important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely so. I mean, I was dating someone when I launched my business, and it's a lot of the people that I work with are, CEOs of companies that are men and women that are, sometimes 20 to 30 years older than me. And I started my business at 24. So I'm 24. I have a meeting with a 50-year-old who, thinks it's very cute that I have my own business. But then I talk to them and I get to the door and we have a great conversation. And, my boyfriend at the time, like, couldn't handle it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not something that they're used to. People, you don't expect to be surrounding in those circles. So it takes a certain level of people on both ends. Like, some people don't want someone that's so flighty all the time that like it could be 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm still working on something. That's not fair to that partner either. So, it's about being really transparent about the person that you're with. And I think when it comes to just this world that we live in, finding someone that, you can balance with. There's another actor, I forget his name. He's in the new Sonic. He's got blonde hair. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's very religious, and he doesn't do any kissing scenes or anything with anybody because he's very married to his wife, but he still gets work. He was even on Desperate Housewives. So, as one of the partners of the people. So I find it fascinating. You don't have to throw out your moral compass to be an actor. A lot of people think that. But going back to the non-negotiable concept, that's what it is. Same with relationships. I've always been very passionate about business because I didn't date till I was much older, and by that time I was very focused on this is the thing that will carry me into a legacy, and the person that I'm with will either respect that or they won't.
Simple.
And vice versa. And vice versa.
Very, very simply put. I love that. That is like simply put. Now, is there? I want to make sure I phrase this correctly. Have you ever been on a date with somebody and you come off as intimidating? Because we talked about your type A a little bit earlier, like so the type A. You already know where this is going.
I'm ready for you. It's cool. No one's asked me about dating before on an interview before, so this is funny. But you know me, so it's
that's a fact.
So sorry, what was the question again?
So
have I ever been on a date and someone's called me intimidating, or I've become intimidating?
I mean, because we're in an age where someone actually came up with the idea of the term ghosting. So you could have been ghosted. They could have told you flat out to your face. Have you ever been in a situation where you knew my type A got me, No,
I don't. Honestly, my type A gets in the way before somebody even asks me out. I'm very upfront with who I am in terms of people. It's funny. I mean, I've had people. I had like 2 people who asked me out in January, like very serious about it, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then I guess they assume. I mean, because you put yourself out on social media a lot, especially when you're, constantly putting it out for like even businesses like, we all have our business persona and our personal persona, and sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's not. But people look into that. They look at the surface level stuff. They look through your Instagram and they think, oh my God, all these people must be talking to her or him or whatever. And they don't take the time to get to know you. They're so caught up in the idea of you. And I'm guilty of it too. I've been into people where I'm just like, you're this great person. You get lost in the idea of them. But I have people who ask me out who still haven't set a date to ask me to take me out. And I don't, and I think it's funny. I mean, not funny. I think, it's funny to me, which that makes me sound really insensitive, but I just find it ironic, you know. But most of the time people don't ask me out. If I want to go out with you, I'll tell you.
Wow. So that's how you roll.
Yeah, if I want you, I'll tell you. I think because I'm so used to people playing the game. Like I hate dating. Oh God, I hate dating. I do, and I've never really dated. I've been back to back in two very serious relationships. So to me, and they were both people that I became friends with first. So, in terms of dating though, it's such like a game now. Oh, now with these apps, like, are you kidding me?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Are
Quarantine
you kidding me? Yeah, I know they got quarantined. There's a great marketing site called Intelligent Dating or something. Intelligent something. It's a new app. And they talk Intelligent Dating, which they're talking these Zoom dates now. Which I was like, good for you for jumping on the quarantine money making wagon.
now.
Um, but I don't. I mean, I know there are a lot of people, and I know people that have made dating apps who swear by dating apps. But to me, for my personality, I don't believe that's the way that it'll work for me. But granted, my aunt and uncle met on AOL when You Got Mail came out. So like,
Ooh,
who
instant.
am I, right? But I think, I don't think I come off as a dating type. So I don't think people ask me out because of it.
Okay.
But, I think that if someone really wants to go out with you, they'll find a way to go out with you. So
I like
watch, I'm gonna get a whole bunch of coffee dates now. Like it's gonna be my quarantine Zoom calendar. You're gonna be like, what are you doing? You don't have anything to do. You're stuck in quarantine. Let's go on a coffee date.
That's the truth. That's the truth. I got called out on that.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't ghost. I mean, so I haven't really necessarily been ghosted in the conventional sense, but I had like I met a guy a few weeks ago who I was hanging out with my friend, and he um asked me for my number. He'd been hanging out like by us all night, and I was like, okay, probably gonna ask me for my number. And I was like, screw it, 2020, live your best life. I was like, sure, here's my number. So he messages me a couple days later, and that week I was very busy because I was very upfront when I made like I'm very upfront. I have my own business. I'm also an actor. I work a lot. Like I'm very upfront about that. Um, and so he messaged me, and I was like, so I guess we're gonna go for a drink. I was like, yeah. I'm like, I'm sorry, though I can't this week. I'm very busy, but next week I'll be fine. He's like, oh, okay. And a week go by and never messaged me again. So I think he thought I was interested. So I get it, like it happens, but I'm not upset by it because to me, it's not in the forefront of my mind.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah. You have a very different mindset, clearly, and like
Mhm.
that sounds going back to what we're talking about of developing relationships and um a lot of people are looking for one thing, let's say.
Mhm.
Do you ever see that when let's call it a suitor or a suitess comes up to you? It's 2020, man. You don't know. You don't know.
I mean, let me tell you, I think this has become a really horny quarantine. I think DMs, DMs have just been lighting up like Christmas lights. Like
Damn,
all my
damn, she liked it like that. Her DMs are just
No, I mean, but the thing is like we're being forced to be social right now in the only way we know how. So, um, I mean, what's a suitor? I don't know.
I try and keep it classy, but let's call it for simplicity's sake a fuckboy.
No, I have no current or future plans for a booty call. No.
Ah, okay, okay. I mean, it's quarantine. Like there's gonna be a
You
lot of
can't see anybody anyway. You can't go out. Like if I leave this apartment to go, I don't know. First of all, where am I going to meet anybody? First of all. Secondly, I don't know anyone in Manhattan who I like enough to like go to their house.
yeah, that's always it. It's always it. Like, because it's a self quarantine. So
I don't want to die. Like, what are you talking about? All I do is every night I make sure I give my friend who I'm staying with a nice big hug, and we drink a whole bunch of wine, and then we watch Disney Plus. Like, what do we need?
I
But
don't.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Oh, my phone is ringing again.
I like it. I like it.
Hold on one second. Okay, there. Yep, sorry. I'm hearing back.
all right. So I got some. I know some people who they're still partying. I mean, they'll have company over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, like it. You could feel comfortable with a suitor, but that's not your style. So I do have to. I do have to ask you this though, because I mean, it has been awesome to
Mm-hmm.
like see the how you looked at business, how you looked at acting, how you looked at vulnerability. You know what we just kind of went over. Um, what's in store for whatever you got going on after this? Because we all know it's going to be ending
Mm-hmm.
soon. What's after this?
So after the quarantine?
Yeah, like 5 years. What's the amazing Jordan?
Way after the quarantine. I mean, my big overarching goal right now is just to be the American Phoebe Waller-Bridge. That's probably my biggest goal. So in 5 years, hopefully the same stuff. I'd love to make, star, and produce my own things and help all my friends along the way. Like even tonight, which I'm getting the time's going off for me, but I'm shooting a music video tonight, so we're using all this time to just make content to show our voice and share our voice and let people know that we're here and like this is my voice, this is my take on things, and hopefully the things that I develop now and plan now will carry on me to the next phase.
Okay, awesome. And before we get into all your promo stuff, um, for the female viewers that we have, what is something that they can take away from you as far as how to be upbeat in this situation, how to stay positive? Like if they want to pursue something, and you're a fantastic example of that,
Thank
how
you.
can they just start? Because it's always about starting.
I think the best way to start is just give yourself the permission to say yes. I think a lot of people, men and women, but especially women, they don't give themselves the permission to say yes. And I think if you just gave yourself the permission to just do it and not worry about what like look, we've lived several weeks now without contact with our friends, without regular transportation. We've been stuck in our houses, or maybe not even our houses, with limited resources. You have everything that you possibly need within yourself. You have a mind, you're breathing. You can make the best things out of any obstacle if you just give yourself the permission to do it.
I like
And give yourself a challenge. Say like if I can't spend money right now, which you shouldn't really be doing anyway, how could I invest in myself? What could I make for myself with the limited resources? Kids do it all the time. If you want a really great way to see somebody who just makes something out of nothing, kids do it all the time. As adults, we forget that we can do those things because unless they don't have some immediate, gratification, we don't see the value in it. But like I said, give yourself permission to say yes, and don't be afraid of the likability factor. A lot of us are afraid that if we do something, people aren't going to like us. But
it.
I think that the more true you are to yourself and what you really are passionate about, people are going to flock to it. The people that you want to take notice of you will take notice of you.
Okay. And where can everybody find you, Miss Jordan? Because that was amazing gems there, and I really want everybody to hear that. So and kind of follow you and go and watch your content here and really see that your network's the next network.
Yep. So thank you. So everyone can find our stuff on starbabynetwork.com. It's free to sign up right now. It's still being built out because originally we were going to launch on Roku and Fire TV and Apple TV, but right now we're doing it online. So it's starbabynetwork.com / memberships, I believe. I'll send you the link so you can use it. And then Starbaby Enterprises is the big parent company, and you could find that at Starbaby Network on social media. And all my stuff is at Jordie, JORDIE _Starbaby.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I appreciate the time, Jordan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will let you go so you can go rock the music video. I want to hear them both
Thank you.
chords.
Yes, me too.
All right,
Thank you so
girl.
much.
Have a great rest of your quarantine day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.